Hey guys, how's it going? This is Ryan, Rigs of Death Metal. Today my guest is Dom of the awesome YouTube channel, Dome Nightbearer, where you might know him for, curating some of the finest Swedish chainsaw type death metal tones, or from his really sick band Nightbearer. Dom, how's it going, man?
Well, thanks for having me. It's going wonderful here. How about you?
It's not bad. It's early. I got some in-laws over, lots of kids running around,
Ah, nice.
kind of hiding out down here in my little studio for a bit. But yeah, dude. I'm a little embarrassed that we have not done this sooner because we've had back and forth for a little while now, both kind of, you know, covered some of the same gear over the last couple years.
Yeah.
A lot of cool stuff. I have always loved, like, I think when I was first kind of diving into the Swedish chainsaw thing, which I think it really kind of got popular around 2014 or 15. Like it just seemed to really, really take off with a lot of bands. Like the cat got out of the bag.
Yeah, yeah.
The next thing you know, everybody has one, and that the boutique pedal market just started to boom after that. Which we all know who the OGs were. But uh but yeah, you were definitely uh he had to be the first one that I remember seeing covering some of these specific tones in great detail. How long have you been, a big advocate for the chainsaw tone?
Actually, not as long as you might have think, because I actually started with melodic death metal, like In Flames or Children of Bodom, actually. All the Swedish stuff, then lots of Finnish stuff, but not in particular Entombed or Dismember or All the Greatest. I found out about them pretty late. But when I first realized there is this HM2 pedal and what it can actually do, it was with a bloodbath. And I think they started it, and then I don't know. I think it was their third record, which actually features the least amount of HM2, the Fathomless Mastery. And then I found out about it, and then I did my research. And up in this time, there was only, I think there were two videos on YouTube. One from Kurt Ballou, who did some testing of, I think, 10 different HM2 style pedals.
Yeah.
And then another one, I don't even know which one. And yeah, then it basically started. I had a band at this time that was rather new, and they were in search for a sound. And then I said, well, no, they asked me if I wanted to be their guitar player, and I said, well, if I'm going to be a guitar player, HM2, because I wanted to have a band that features HM2. And I said, well, if you take me, you have to take the HM2. And then I just went for it, and well, yeah, that's basically my start.
Nice. And I'm guessing you probably started off with what was like an OG Japanese one or Taiwanese, or was it something else entirely?
I was the first one. The first one was actually Low Woof Audio Left Hand Breath,
Okay.
and it was, I think, version two of version one, and I tried it. I hated it, and then I sold it because I didn't know how to use it. I read you have to crank all the knobs, but on a left hand breath you don't have to crank all the knobs. And I did it. I even messaged Joe and said, dude, I don't know what's wrong here. And yeah, but I sold it. And then that was my very first experience. And then my first real experience, I was more aware of what I want. I bought an Japanese one. Yes, Japanese, complete in box, for a decent price. That's the first HM2 I bought. Yes.
Hell yeah. I think off the back of that Kurt Ballou video that you mentioned, um, I think off of that, I sought out specifically and purchased a Taiwanese made one because just from
Mm.
that video, I thought it sounded cooler than the Japanese one, and at the time, could be found cheaper than any of the boutique options.
Yeah.
And yeah, rolled with that for a while, which I eventually sold it, and now I got a handful of chainsaw pedals that do everything that thing can do, and then some. Uh, which man, some of them have gotten so good and so versatile, like stuff way beyond just that one sound. When you ran, when you when you ran, or whenever you still run, whatever, whenever you use like an OG, like the four knob, Boss original one, uh, are you like an all knobs dimed kind of guy into like a clean or slightly dirty amp, or like I always like to run them. The EQ is dimed. I would roll the gain completely off, and the level I would kind of set it as almost like just sort of a boost and run it in front of a high gain and kind of use it almost like an overdrive and EQ as opposed to like the full blown distortion pedal. What was like? What's your go to for like the original?
I tried every possible combination, and I found out that I highly prefer the HM2 in front of a slightly overdriven amp. So not clean, but not high gain as well, just slightly overdriven.
Okay,
EQ is maxed on the OG level as well, and the gain I typically have at around 9 o'clock. I think that's the sweet spot for me. And it basically depends on the amp. My most favorite is the PV VTM. I own the VTM 60, and there you can run it at 9 o'clock without any problems. And sometimes you have to go lower. However, then I think it sounds a bit too clean, if you can call it clean in this particular genre.
right. Um, with Nightbearer, I know I've seen some different pedal board rig iterations that you've done over like the past year. What is your current setup for Nightbearer?
Currently, I think I assume you're talking live,
Yeah,
because in the studio is a totally different beast. For live, we go actually with an almost all digital solution, because it's let's be honest, it's easier to transport, it's easier to set up, and we want to concentrate on our live show, on our stage appearance, and so, and we don't want to have to struggle with any amps or whatever. So my setup is that simple. It's, as of right now, it's the Fractal FM3. And for the chainsaw, I still use an analog pedal, and I chose now the Lichtleer Medusa.
it's a great one.
Yes, it's a great one. I prefer the sound of the Left Hand Breath V3, but I chose the Medusa because it has an integrated noise gate.
Right.
So I can use this just to tame it a bit more, because I could run another noise gate on the Fractal, but it doesn't do the same. The noise gate on the Medusa is just better, and I don't want to run an additional analog noise gate or whatever.
Gotcha.
And Tristan, our second guitar player, he's using the Helix HX Stomp, and also a Medusa.
Nice. Awesome setups. Are you still using that? If I missed it, I might have missed it if you said it, but are you still using the Ingle cab loader?
I never have used it live. I just have it here in the studio. The Fractal does my cap IRs.
Gotcha. I think it was maybe just like for one of your just a video
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Um, yeah, I've been doing something kind of similar with my black metal band jamming. I've got the Kemper player,
Mm.
and I actually was using. I had a couple different like noise like wall of noise pedals that I was messing with for certain parts. Like I had the Medusa on there, um, the Smearmore Smarv pedal. I messed with that on one practice. Just trying out stuff. Um, working developing something with a pedal builder right now. That's another kind of like fuzz distortion slash HM2 type thing. Because I like throwing that in for certain parts, like just to make it sound huge.
Yeah, yeah.
um, for before I move on, you said that was for your live setup. What is like your go-to studio or like your most recent recordings? What's the studio situation like for you? Like,
So for Nightbearer, for our recent record Defiance, I used the PVVTM60,
okay,
and then I had two different chains, left and right. For the right, or for one side, I used the AIB Custom Death into Lone Wolf Audio 6 Hammer EQ. On the other side, I used the Void Manufacturing Trend Killer. Joe built me a custom one with the blend control. And this I ran into an it's a funny pedal. It's an Aris FX Tube Screamer clone that was modded by AIB Custom.
interesting. Okay,
I have no idea what Jerome did, but it just sounds brutal, and it's my go-to overdrive for everything.
hell yeah. Okay, so cabinet wise, what are you running?
Because I live in a fairly small home with the neighbors nearby, I can't use a full cabinet, so I opted to go with impulse responses. I have the fractal load box, and I use IRs from an actually small German company. It's called D-Night Audio, and he what did I use? I think I used some of his IRs. Was a Mesa Oversize with a V30, and I think I blended some Lichtlärm Lucifer speaker.
Okay, nice. Um, I can't remember if I've got to try any IRs of the Lucifer yet or not. I feel like I did. Yeah, tube amps running IRs is sort of the way to go if you're, especially if you're trying not to, get evicted or pissed off neighbors or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I for for my band, we did something similar. We got like the Engel E530 and just kind of running a line out into like an IR loader in my DAW.
Yeah.
It's great. it's it's awesome.
Yes. And I think the secret sauce here is um, have you tried the Bogren Digital how it's called? IRX or something?
I know what
IRDX or
you're
so?
I know what you're talking about. Uh, it's not integrated into the MLC amp knob, is it? I don't unless it is.
I've
That's the only Bogren digital thing I've really got to try.
I think it's integrated, yes, but yeah, you can't isolate it. I have the isolated version, and I run it after my IR loader, and it just makes the sound sounding less digital and more natural. I don't know what it's doing, but yeah,
Yeah. Uh, I've watched some videos on it. Like I think Scott at Chernobyl did a dedicated video for it. Um, It's really hard to tell unless you've like, got some like studio monitors up and stuff. Like definitely not like a cell phone or a TV speaker.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does seem to add like just like an extra a little touch of something that just makes the top end like a little less harsh and like you said, digital. It definitely does something. I haven't. I need to pick it up or like the standalone version.
Yeah, yeah. And how I understand it, it basically emulates this wobbling that the speaker does because the speaker is in constant motion,
Hmm.
and so when the speaker, I'm over exaggerate. You know what I want to say. The speaker is moving, and then a tone is here played or a note is here played, and it sounds different. And with an IR, you always get this one shot. So basically, the speaker is here, and it doesn't move. And yes, exactly. And this plugin, I think it emulates this wobbling.
Okay, simulating like the actual physical movement of the speaker.
Yes.
It almost makes you think it's almost some level of modulation or something, kind of simulating almost probably similar coding to like a double tracker or anything or any kind of chorus or modulation, trying to simulate that movement a little
Yeah,
bit.
but in a very, very, very subtle way.
Yeah, it's. I'm thinking of in the degree like how a lot of effects at their core are kind of similar. Like a cab IR is essentially just EQ filtering, but
Yeah.
it is to such a refined way that you're not going to achieve the same thing with like a 10 band EQ or anything. But its absolute like core ingredients, there's some shared like ideas there going on.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, really cool. Like I definitely got to check that out. I kind of forget about it a little bit until I see something come up or somebody's demoing a Bogren plugin or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah. um, Guitar wise, what are you favoring right now for the Nightbearer stuff, either live or studio? I know you got a pretty sick
Um,
collection.
so yeah, I almost exclusively play seven-string guitars, and I have a dedicated live and studio guitars. For the studio, I use 27-inch baritones. Um, I can show you. And for live, I use multi-scale guitars because they are a bit easier to play. So one of my live guitars is this one. Hope it's in frame. It's from a Polish company, Black Cat. Um, yeah, it has this, well, not sandblasted, but it looks sandblasted ash body, bare knuckle pickups, and yeah, basically all of my live guitars have the multi-scale stainless steel frets, some kind of bare knuckle pickups, and they are very lightweight because I wanna don't wanna get shoulder pain. I wanna have fun on stage. And for the studio, wait. I have this guitar here. I do have a live version of this guitar. It's in green and with multi-scale. And this one is from XTN. It's a German company located in Berlin, I think. And the body shape was designed by me and Chris. So something I don't want to call it signature, but I definitely had my saying in how it should look. And yeah, this one has Seymour Duncan pickups in it. And I used it to track the Defiance record together with Mayones Setius.
Okay. What Duncans are in that?
Um, Yeah, that's a good question. Nazgul and Sentient, I think.
It's a really good set. I rolled with that in
Yes.
my 7 string for a long time. And what bare knuckles do you tend to prefer? Do you try to get something different every time?
Something different every time. I do have, I think in this one are the Aftermath, I think. And in I have another studio guitar from Black Cat, but it's for really low stuff. There I have the Cold Sweat. I really like those. Um, and the Aftermath, and then there is this other famous series of bare knuckle. It's the Aftermath, and then it's the other one. How's it? Yes, yes, Painkiller, exactly. And in my other live guitar are the Painkillers, and in another, so I have three live guitars. There are the Rebel Yell, maybe. So I like to always get a different set just to spice things up, but I tend to stay in the same output realm, if you want to call it this way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, I've had a very limited experience with bare knuckle, but I was pretty impressed. A buddy of mine had a War Pig. I can't remember which set he had, ceramic or Alnico. And then I had a very Les Paul esque guitar that I put the Alnico War Pigs into that. Because I wanted it to have that thick Les Paul kind of tone and vibe, but just a little meaner. And the War
Mm.
Pigs were like perfect for that kind of thing. That was definitely a doomstick kind of guitar though. Like I don't know if it'd be my go-to for a tighter, more notey kind of death metal thing, but
Mm.
it's pretty like good for like the real thick kind of riffs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to be careful not to pick too high output pickups. At least that's my experience. I once had a Schecter Loomis, the newer model with the EMG 66 something, and the pickups were really high. So the guitar had so much output that it did not sound good with an HM2. It basically oversaturated the HM2. Yeah, so that's where I thought, oh, okay, you have to be careful. Less is more here.
Sure, sure. Yeah. It's your guitar's DI is something that I think a lot of guitar players don't really stop to think about, but man, it's such an important part of your tone. Like guitar players will actually do things to affect it and not really think about it in those terms. But like they know a tube screamer into like a dual wreck or a 5150. They know like that sounds better than not running a tube screamer. But they don't really think of it in those terms. Um, same like running if you're running your guitar into a high Z output or input of like an interface to use plugins or something. That's why it always sounds better if you do some sort of compression or EQ going into like an amp VST,
Yeah.
something like that. Something to kind of manipulate or boost and shape that DI before it hits the VST. Like it just makes such a difference. And yeah, same idea. And a lot of guitar players just don't stop to think of it that way for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, because they know the gear, but they don't know the why do you use a tube screamer into a rectifier. They just know you have to use a tube screamer, or you have to use an HM2 if you want to have a Swedish death metal, but they don't know why. And yeah, again with my YouTube channel, I'm especially interested in the why and how it's happening. So I gathered a lot of knowledge in the last few years, and this comes quite in handy when selecting different pickups or pedals or basically rig combinations.
Yeah. One thing I've always loved about your channel is the when you're going through pedals, it's one thing just to show, like reamp or run a looper or something and let a riff play while you're turning the knobs and let people hear it. But where you include like the actual graph and like you're showing on an EQ graph what the knob does and like what frequency and band and all that stuff, like actually kind of showing scientifically like
Yeah.
like what is this knob actually doing and how much of it. It's kind of fascinating. um and honestly, I know there's been a couple pedals where I was like, huh, that's way more subtle than what I would imagine, things like that. uh what do you use to get that graph anyway? What is that?
That's a free plugin. It's Foxengo Span,
Okay.
and well, I use a reamp box, and the reamp box goes. Shoot pink noise out of the reamp box into the pedal, and then from the pedal it goes straight back into the high Z input of my interface, and there is Foxengo Span, and I have one setting. I might be the default setting. Actually, I just changed up the colors a bit, and that's it.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. I can't think of any other demo channels that I've seen that do that aspect. Um,
One has tried to copy it, but I think he doesn't make videos anymore. So yeah, and a funny thing about those graphic EQs was initially I thought, dude, those pedals they sound so similar. I can't tell the difference, and I want to show the audience the difference if there is any. So I instead of only relying on my ears, I thought, well, just give me and the viewer the eyes as well and show them. And yeah, there some funny stuff happens. You turn a knob and then you say, okay, nothing happens here. I wonder what this knob does, or it does some really weird stuff. And yeah, then and again, it creates knowledge. I know how I can get an if you just give me an EQ plugin and an amp plugin, I can make an HM2 sound. I know exactly what frequencies to boost, what to cut, and I can do this because of the channel and because of all the different pedals I've reviewed so far.
have you come across anything that utilize like an active EQ to where one knob is actually affecting the other knob and things like that, like making it a little more difficult to isolate like what exactly does this knob do? Because if you turn this one up, then it's going to somehow affect how this one sounds.
Yeah, there have been some pedals for sure. I can't remember a specific one, but I think that's what all the fun is about. You try the knobs and the graphic EQ. Lots of people, or not lots of people, but some people don't like it actually. They say, "Yeah, just show how it sounds." And but I think that's the good stuff. The graphic EQ is the theory, and then you start going into the field, and then you say, okay, everything I've gathered so far from the EQ doesn't apply here because it doesn't work. So, and yeah, that's fun actually. Just fun to say, okay, well, I think what I've told you earlier is not true at all.
Right. Yeah. It's gear the gear journey can almost kind of be like learning guitar in that aspect where like you can learn a lot of the why, a lot of the theory, and then at the end of the day, you just have to kind of be imaginative and creative and have fun with it and kind of figure your own way. Because
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah, because there's certainly no music theory classes that no college music courses you can take that are going to specifically teach you how to play melodic death metal.
yeah. Not yet so far.
Like as much as you can carry over into it, and things that will apply, it's up to you to kind of put all the pieces together to do your own thing.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, so when it comes to, actually, on that note, what is your music education like? Are you self-taught? Did you take classes, things like that? Private lessons, anything?
I started playing the classical guitar with, I think I was 9, and I had a teacher until I was 15, and then after that it's basically self-taught. So I got all the basic guitar theory, like sight reading from the classical guitar, but tabs and everything else was self-taught. However, I had at school I had a good music teacher, and so I studied music theory on my own, but I could verify it with my music teacher in actual music class. But just until graduation, and from then on, it was all self-taught.
Okay. And what a drive you must have had then, like for like trying to seek out and learn theory on your own, and then like just coming to school trying to, hey, hey, does this scale work this way? Are these the right like semitones? Like I don't think I've heard of people taking private lessons and classes and things like that, but self-teaching theory, uh I feel like is almost sort of a little bit of a rarity. Normally self-taught guys are like, yeah, I kind of find my own way, and they'll learn songs and kind of piece things together and fumble their way through it to where they can play their ideas the way that they see fit. But imposing it on yourself to learn the not fun stuff so you can do the fun stuff.
Yeah, I think what helped me was that I was always really fond of reading, and sometimes or not often I was in situations where I wasn't able to play the guitar, or where I didn't have a guitar at hand, but I could read. So I had some books, and well, there is the theory. So I read it, and yeah, that of course helped, because when my parents drove to some bigger city, I either I played Game Boy, or I had a book in my hand, and well, then I had this guitar, how to play solo guitar, and there was this theory section, and well, okay, then I read the theory section.
I like how you pointed out, oh, I like to read, as you have your
Ah. Well, yes, who could have guessed? No shit, Sherlock.
uh kind of on that note, just like a this is just a little fun side tangent. What it From looking at your collection and seeing in the background of most of your videos, is it safe to say your comic books being like your favorite, or is there another subgenre of literature that is your favorite? It's
Mm. No, comics is by far my favorite. I for 7 years or so, I worked at a place that was an hour away from my home, and I drove there by bus. So it was 1 hour to work and 1 hour back from home. And I did not want to take my comics with me. So in this time, I read lots of books, mostly sci-fi actually. But as soon as I found a new working place a lot closer to home, I almost completely stopped reading real books and just continued reading comics. So by far my favorite form of literature.
Are you kind of like me where you prefer to wait and get a trade paperback or whatever where the story's all together, or do you like collecting individual issues or a bit of both?
It depends. My pile of shame is so big that I probably should wait for the trades. But I for the X-Men comics, I don't know if it shows. If it's the upper row, it's all full of X-Men omnis. So X-Men's by far my most favorite series. I have lots of single issues. I once tried to get every XXX related comic book in single issue. I have a fairly huge collection. Um, so those I read in single issues, but most of the other stuff just trades, especially Image Comics or whatever, just single issues.
Do you have a singular favorite? Well, you said X-Men was your favorite comic series. Do you have a singular favorite character or a couple characters?
Uh, Nightcrawler because he's German.
Okay.
But it was my one of my favorites before I knew he was German because I liked his appearance and his mutant ability. And
He's a cool
there's
character.
yes, he definitely is.
He has never been depicted as well in live action, I don't think, as literally just the beginning of X2. Like
Yeah,
like
exactly.
him in the White House zipping around and beating everyone's ass. If he wasn't even that cool in the rest of the movie, literally just the beginning.
Yeah, true. And apart from that, I always okay. Wolverine is a very obvious answer, so most of the time I spare. Um, I like Colossus is also a cool character.
Which one?
A Colossus.
Oh, Colossus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Old Man Logan, and by attachment, the movie Logan. Uh,
Yeah.
Probably some of my favorite stuff in comic books. Period. Logan's a great movie. Like you could
Yeah.
have done some rewriting and made it not even about like mutants or anything like that. It could have made it like a I don't know like an old vet or something like that, and it would have been a like at its core a fucking great movie. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. True. True.
Yeah. But to be brutally honest, a lot of the comic book movies I think are dog shit anymore. Like they've gotten so bad. I still have a lot of love for a lot of like comics and especially stuff I grew up with. I still love the characters and the stories and things like that. But the movies have to say I'm burnt out is an understatement. But Logan is one of the very few exceptions for me.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
To be honest, I haven't watched the recent superhero movies at all. I think I yeah, I no, I think I watched the first Avengers from 2012.
Which is fine.
Yeah, 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 it's fine. I Logan, okay, the X movies is bit different, but I think Doctor Strange, that's the most recent and not the multiverse, although I really like the concept of the multiverse, but I just watched the first Doctor Strange. I think this is the most recent non-X related superhero movie I watched.
Yeah. Um, this is going down such a rabbit hole tangent. I think one of the things that really kills a lot of modern like Marvel or I mean, DC too. Any of these comic book movies, it becomes such a CGI fest that I think I just kind of disconnect from it.
Hmm.
Which I've seen. I've watched stuff where people try to chalk it up to almost like uncanny valley, where your brain, like the human mind, is kind of programmed to register when things are real or not. Um, so CGI characters, it's just not going to resonate with you as if it was something real or practical on screen. You know, I kind of buy it a little bit because I really do. I kind of check out. Um, there was a horror movie that I really, really enjoyed called Cursed that came out a few years ago, and great movie. A very, very original take on the werewolf story. I enjoyed everything about it except the CGI werewolves themselves. And I was like, I get it. You can't do with the way they looked, you cannot do that in with anything practical. I understand, but at the same time, it just takes me out of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I had the same with Transformers.
Yeah.
I watched it and I thought, okay, this movie is expensive. We can see this. It's expensive, but that's about it. I couldn't get into the movie. I just was, yeah, just floating above and, well, yeah, just was not into it.
I watched one of them in theaters, and when you have like the crazy big sound system, it's on a huge screen in front of you. It's more enjoyable. It's I don't know how to describe it, but I was into it a lot more. And then watched the exact same. Actually, got it on DVD or Blu-ray. Watched it at home, and I was bored to fucking tears. I'm like, wow, this really doesn't translate well. Um, I think it was Martin Scorsese that had some quote comparing, like, he might have taken a shot specifically at Marvel, but maybe it was more broad term. But a lot of these like modern comic book movies, he compared to like an amusement park ride instead of an actual film. Um,
Yeah,
and I was like, it sort of a little bit of an abstract analogy, but I get what he's saying, where it's like this almost just more of this thrill ride event kind of thing, like going to a theater and you see it and you're kind of wrapped up in the big, because the sound is crazy. It's all huge explosions, and it's kind of like what people would pick on Michael Bay for doing back in the day.
yeah,
Like Transformers,
yeah.
um, where it's all spectacle, and then once that wears off, it doesn't hold up well. Like if you go to rewatch it or watch it at home on just your regular TV, uh, all of that surface level kind of glamour is gone, and the story is not strong enough to hold it up.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no
exactly.
no real substance, and to, for the people that are like shut up about movies, you could really tie this into a lot of music as well.
Yeah,
There's a lot of artists and bands out there where it's very surface level glitz and glamour, and it's too perfect and all that. And I think we can kind of disconnect from that stuff too, like when there's too much pitch correction and things are dragged to a grid, things are too perfect, things are too quantized. I think we can mentally kind of check out on that when it's too perfect. It just doesn't sound. Not I don't. And when I say it doesn't sound real, I don't mean to just sound like a boomer or anything, but
yeah,
but uh, it does. There's just something missing. I don't know. It's like looking at a big CGI character on screen, you know?
yeah, yeah. It's uh, I agree 100%, and it sounds too artificial, and when it's too artificial, it doesn't sound real, and you need some kind of realism, um, at least in the genres you and I like. I totally agree that when you want to have a really modern metal approach, uh, whatever, you expect this kind of perfect playing, perfect pitch, whatsoever. You want this and you get it. But in the death metal and doom metal or whatever, black metal, you want all those tiny imperfections. You don't want to have it to be top notch. You want to feel something. And one of my band members, I had a conversation with him, and we talked about one record. I don't know which one, but it was no. Don't want to drop any names here. And we we talked and we agreed it's awful. The production was awful. And then one of the guys said, "Well, at least it makes you feel something." And we made a joke about it. We said, "Well, if it makes you feel this way, you should reconsider your your musical approach." But in the essence of it, every imperfection or even a perfect record makes you feel something.
Yeah.
And most of the time we want to make as a musician, we want to make feel people or want to make people to have good emotions, but when they have bad emotions, they do have emotions as well, so there's that.
Yeah, true. I'm trying to think of an album that would exemplify that, where, like, at least in my experience, where it's like, I know what you're saying. I know I've felt that towards a specific record before.
Well, I can give you an example. The Clayman record by In Flames, it was redone in a few years ago for some kind of anniversary. Was mixed by Chris or Tom Lord LG. Everything was newly recorded and mixed and mastered. It sounds horrible.
What no shade to those guys because they're great at what they do. But when you told
Of
me,
course.
as soon as you said it was one of the two brothers, I know I'm familiar with their style, and applying it to Clayman, I'm like, I already knew. I already
Yeah.
knew it was going to be a completely neutered version.
Yeah, they are great at what they're doing, and I'm very sure I'm not familiar with their discography, but I'm sure they've mixed lots of records I really like. But for the Clayman record that had a perfect sound in 2001 or when it came out, uh, just didn't do it, and that's the thing. The sound in the initial record maybe wasn't perfect, but it had its edges and yes, it had character. And the newer record, well, it's just neutered, as you said.
Yeah, yeah. It bums me out so bad when bands do that. Um, Sometimes it's production, uh, which I don't always bash on bands like re-releasing old material. Um, One of my favorite records, period. I love the redone version actually better than the original, and it's Marduk's Panzer Division.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer like the later one. Like, it sounds sick. Like, that's a good example where you actually made it sound even more pissed off, and it's just you can hear how pissed they are like more clearly now.
Yeah.
But I guess bands evoking some kind of emotion sometimes. I'll name drop. Behemoth was one of my favorite, most influential bands for a long time, and then they've obviously have shifted their sound over the years. And the last two or three records just really did not resonate with me, and I I feel like in their case maybe that to an extent they're almost kind of trying to evoke that a little bit. They want it. I think they purposely want to shift hard away from what they were. Like they don't want to be. I don't think they want to be anywhere near. Like I'm sure they still play the songs live, but their new material, I'm sure they don't want to be anywhere near like what Demigod was, or something
Mm.
like that, or like even further back. Um, so they're like, oh, you like that record, but you don't like this one. Well, we want it to be as different as possible. We don't want to do the same thing over and over, and I can respect that to a degree.
Yeah, of course.
Is I mean, is it my cup of tea? No. I still play the old stuff all the time, though. Um, Still a huge influence for me, and still have a lot of respect for those dudes. That said, I'm not buying any more records until I change it up a bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I listened to their recent release, and yeah, I just think they want to provoke with some of the names of the songs, and the music just yeah. Okay, to be honest, I am not the biggest Behemoth fan there is. I never gotten into them. I know that our vocalist and our bass player they really they love Behemoth, but with the recent record they said, well, yeah, okay. Do you know the band Hate? They released a new record. It sounds like the better Behemoth. Listen to it. And I said, well, yes, I enjoyed this record.
Yeah, that's funny enough. That's how I usually describe the band Hate as well.
Yeah.
And it's true. They kind of harken back to like what I think of when I think of blackened death metal. It's a very specific sound, and it's like just that crossroads. And I think Behemoth kind of leaned more into like experimental kind
Yeah.
of worlds, where Hate was like, nah, we're cool at just continuing to refine the sound that we like.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
there's tons of great bands out there that that are in that style, that I still love. Mixcog, even though they haven't really, I think they've been working on a third record for like, I don't know, like 10, like at least 10 to 15 years now or something like that. They're almost pulling a necrophagist at this point. Um, but anyway, boy, really got off on a rabbit trail there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. It's cool.
Um, what is what is a piece of gear? I know you're always acquiring gear for the channel for demos and things like that, as well as I'm sure for personal amusement. Um, what is a piece of gear that maybe it's not chainsaw number 43, but something that is more utility based, like a problem solver piece of gear? What's something that you're looking for, or that you already have found it and you're just waiting to pull the trigger on buying it?
That I don't already own.
Yeah,
Uh,
something that's just like, well, I'd like to be able to do this or this, and I either haven't found something or haven't bought something yet that does that for me. Something that's just a problem solver.
mm,
This could be studio or live.
yeah, for life, we closed the gap. So I don't have anything that I need for live, but for studio, I think it would be the Empress uh, PariQ Mark II. Uh, I do own a couple of different EQ pedals, but most of them are graphical. And the Empress is of a parametric EQ, and I think this would be a really cool problem solver for two reasons. We talked earlier about spicing up your DI sound, and this could the pedal do because you can dial in the frequencies you want to boost or cut, or you can use it in the FX loop to shape in the tone more. And for this purpose, I do have pedals that I use, but think, if I would have just here a parametric band would be cooler.
Yeah. I kind of enjoy, if we're talking about just sitting and like messing with a pedal, just dialing in a tone. I kind of enjoy parametric better a little bit.
Mm.
Um, just for the sake of like, I'd rather dial into my ears, and if I have a graphical EQ, I'm gonna dial with my eyes a little bit more. Parametric, I feel like kind of forces me to listen
Mm.
more. I know that might sound silly, but I think like right now I've had a few different ones. I've tried a handful that Joe has made, Void Manufacturing for those unfamiliar. But like I had an 8 ball once upon a time, and I've tried the 6 hammer. Right now, I've got the Toxic Presence, which I actually probably moved my favorite so far.
Yes, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's very specifically a guitar. I feel like very specifically a guitar
Yeah.
EQ, since it's so like basically just for focusing on your mid range, which I don't think I don't think I've ever come across a pedal that more drastically changes what the guitar sounds like. Because I've even tried some 10 band EQs where some of the frequencies are not as prominent of a change, but like guitar is a mid range instrument, of course. Like you're changing basically what your where your spot is in the band with just
Yeah,
a
yeah.
knob, you know. Um, yeah, such a fun pedal. And Joe was supposed to like recommend me some settings, I think, and we both forgot about it. So I ended up just like finding like 3 or 4 different combinations of settings that I love. um, so at the Empress Para EQ Mark II. Have you messed with the Mark One?
No, I have not.
Really? Uh, I tried a Mark One. It was in like a guitar store though, but like I knew to run it through the effects loop and all that stuff. And I just remember it's like it's for any of you at home who haven't had the opportunity to run an effects pedal of some kind through the loop of an amplifier. It's literally like being able to change how your amplifier, like from one amp to a completely different kind of amp. um, I don't think there's anything that can more drastically alter your tone than a good EQ pedal. Um, whether you get like one of the cheaper, like Boss was EQ6 something like the single stomp one, or like a 10 band MXR or whatever. I think everybody has to have at least one, in their collection. Um, like good example, if you've got anything that's like Fender derivative, like a Mesa Boogie or anything like that, any kind of American one, they're all inherently pretty mid scooped, right?
Yeah.
Um, Good way to kind of help your tone cut through the mix a little bit better, help boost up some of those mid range frequencies. Or if you've got something more British like a Marshall where it's a very mid forward, you can try to cut that a little bit, or get real complicated with it, cutting maybe on the front end of the amp and boosting the mid range through the loop, and kind of like you're playing with like a Pultec EQ or something, boosting and cutting at the same time.
And that's exactly what I love about all those effect pedals because you can really shape your tone. Well, you can you can basically have 3 EQ stages and tinker until everything sounds exactly as you wanted, and that's the fun. And that gives you unique sounds because nobody wants another tube screamer into dual rectifier, you know?
Right. That was like my rig for like 10 years, and I ended up selling that Mesa. It kind of hurt a little bit, and I miss it
Yeah.
sometimes. Um, because like I spent most of like my youth like dreaming and fantasizing about a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier, and and had one for a good while, but it got to a point where I'm like, man, this sounds great, but it's very typical. I want something kind of unique here. Like
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
you get tired of the same old, same old. Um, I know it's tried and true, but I refuse to buy a 5150 or some kind of derivative. It's not that they sound bad. They sound great. I've played them and enjoyed them, but out of principle, I will never own a 5150. I just can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I never owned one, and in an old rehearsal space we had one, and I played about it, and it was funny because every time I heard a 5150, I think always thought, well, this sounds really cool. And when I played into one, I always thought, I don't sound cool on this one. And yeah, that's I when I choose gear for myself, I actually tend to buy stuff that nobody or really few people have, because then you have the chance to sound original. You can get unique sounds. Uh, of course, you can get also familiar sounds, but yeah, as you say, either it's principle or it's boredom. I don't wanna have a 5150. If some client comes to me and says he wants a 5150-ish sound, I try to fulfill it with my stuff that I have. And well, worst of all, XFX3 5150. There you go.
Yeah. Uh, have you watched that URM Academy video? I forget the producer's name, but it was who worked on the most recent Bloodbath record.
No, I have not.
It was pretty cool. There's a I guess it was like a full length course on mixing a specific song, but you can look up on YouTube. There's like a I don't know, maybe 15-minute long video where
Hmm.
he's talking specifically about the guitar tones for that most recent record. Um, really fascinating. And what you're talking about, like, when a band wants a very, try not to be mean, very, very,
Well known.
common, yeah, well known guitar tone, like a 5150 into an oversized Mesa with V30s with an SM57 on it, boosted with a tube screamer. Woo. Um, sorry. um, but yeah, sure. If that's what they want, like, okay, cool. They want what they want, but then they're also wanting to be unique and stand out. It's like, well, that's a paradox. Uh, so in the Bloodbath video, the producer was explaining how Bloodbath wanted a little bit more atypical guitar tone because they were going for a very Floridian death metal kind of influence,
Hmm.
which you can definitely hear it on certain songs. More Morbid Angel, less, Sweet Death.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and I think they used either a PVJSX or a Kemper profile of one. I think they used like the actual head though, and there are guitar tracks of the JSX on there, which is great sounding amp. Um, and the producer, he wanted to do something a little different. He wanted to spice it up some. So that is there, and that is probably the most heavily featured tone that you're hearing. But he blended in a couple tracks of other stuff too. Um, like there is a track of HM2, like, and it's blended in there. Um, they didn't want that to be a full blown chainsaw tone,
Yeah.
but uh, if you guys haven't messed with it already, multi track, like doing multiple guitar tracks and just blending in. I've done just an HM2 up the middle, and had like, my dry, more typical rhythm guitars panned left and right, and just an HM2 up the middle as like a enhancer guitar track. That works great. Um, but he did that, and he also did a third set of guitars, and it was like a Line 6 Uber metal pedal. One of those like with like the little interchangeable capsules. Do you
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
those things? Yeah. He did a Line 6 Uber metal pedal, ran through the effects return of the JSX, and ran that as its own set of guitars. Just like, and just blended all three of these sounds, and it sounds so fucking good. It's such a cool and unique tone that way, and that's like one of the things that almost bums me out with the digital age, is like a lot of people don't utilize, like, the digital stuff is great because you can just experiment to your heart's content, and it's so easy, you know like you can come up with some pretty crazy arrangements and concoctions,
Yeah.
um, with minimal gear. uh, and I wish more people would take advantage of that and just go full mad scientist with it. Because you can totally run like some weird stuff like that. Uh, but and blending in stuff like that is such a cool way to where you can get your tried and true guitar tone, but then like just sprinkle in a little something extra just to give it some more texture.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, have you found any cool like tone combinations? Like, I don't know if you're a fan of quad tracking or anything like that, or just layering in something subtle underneath. Have you ever like messed with that, or are you more of like, I like to dial in a certain tone and just kind of roll with that and pan it?
For Defiance, we actually went full HM2, and we do have, however, a center guitar on certain parts, and there I've used a variety, just as you said, to spice things up. I used the weirdest combinations of preamp pedals and FX return and some boosts just to make it original and either give it more well-known sound or even more disgusting sound, just what the part needs. And for the previous records, I never quad tracked, but I run two different sounds per side, and one was always the HM2 side, and one was a more well-known approach. But I can't recall what exactly. As of recent, I have the KMA Audio Tyler. It's are you familiar with the pedal?
I'm familiar with the company, the Tyler.
Okay. The Tyler is it's basically you can run two pedals in parallel,
Oh, okay.
and then you can even high cut or low cut one side. So you can use one pedal and just use the low frequencies of this pedal, and then another pedal just use the high frequencies. And you can also blend in some clean signal and so on. And with this pedal, it's been quite a while, but I've basically tried every preamp or other distortion pedal that I had together with an HM2 and looked, well, what sounds cool. And actually, the Rocktron Zombie, it's a pink pedal. It's this big metal housing from the old Rocktron pedals. It's I think it's their version of a rectifier. It's called rectified distortion. On its own, it sounds horrible, but when you blend it with a chainsaw, it sounds so good. And this, I think you can, well, here overseas, you can buy it for 50 euros or so. So basically nothing. And nobody has it, nobody uses it, but it gives such a cool flavor. Yeah, I think this is one of the top combinations that I found.
Fuck yeah. I love that. I see that's what I'm talking about. I love just weird tonal combinations that Just come up with something unique, or at the very least, something that you can blend in to make your overall recording sound unique.
Yeah.
But well, dude, I think we'll go ahead and kind of start bringing this to a close. This has been a lot of fun, but I do got one more question for you. I always like to end these with like, give me your personal Mount Rushmore, like your top four, uh, big death metal bands for you, whether it's like a personal influence or and it's just, oh, these four bands, this is my jam. This is
Okay. In no particular order. I have to include Bloodbath for obvious reasons. Um, I have to include In Flames, although they are not pure death metal, but they were just such a huge influence to me. Um, in case you didn't know, and for everybody listening, In Flames split up after Clayman in 2001, and they never came back together. They are disbanded right now. Just to be clear here. Okay. So this leaves me with two more spots. Um, I think hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. Yeah, just not for the sound. The sound is uh, different, but they're just the songs. They think they are one of the best songwriters there are. And the fourth, I want to say, I want to say, but I want to say Valenfire because of Greg McIntosh. McIntosh is such a good writer of melodies. He can create this awesome atmosphere. And initially, I wanted to include Paradise Lost, but Paradise Lost is no death metal. So Valenfire it is. And yeah, I think those are my four.
it's a good top four. I'm a big Peter Tockren fan as well, by the way, and he definitely does have his own production style for his own band as well as like bands that he records for.
And the funny thing is, he sounds exactly the same regardless of what he uses. He used, for one record, he used the Sans amp, and I thought, oh yes, okay, I can hear it. This sounds really digital. And then the next Hypocrisy record sounded exactly the same, and he said, yeah, I used those old vintage Marshalls. I said, what?
How? Like, what are you doing then?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I think Morgan, I think Morgan from Marduk, I think he was talking about recording with Peter. Because I didn't he record do a couple at least a couple Marduk records?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I think whenever they finally moved away from him for production, I think Morgan didn't necessarily throw shade, but he's like, saying something like Peter definitely has a certain sound, as like most of the bands that record with him all kind of have that sound, and they're just wanting to do something different. So yeah, I hear it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been a lot of fun.
It was a pleasure to be here.
We'll maybe we'll do this again sometime or do some kind of cool, I don't know, like like dedicated video talking about chainsaws, showing off chainsaws. Well, we got to do something because
Most definitely.
um, we talk gear off camera too, and a lot of crossover interest. So there's some fun like collaboration ideas that we gotta try to
Yeah.
see out. But
Comic book podcast.
dude, that'd be kind of honestly, it would probably be more successful. Hell yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you again. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you next time. Peace.
Bye.